Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you.
And the vote is in as...
5 laws.
Why?
Because a change in belief, this is a core fundamental belief that changes everything. It's fundamental for changing everything I used to believe in, when I used to believe in a linear timeline.
All right.
So it affects pretty much everything.
All right. Now, the linear timeline is a real experience, even though it is illusionary as a side effect.
Yes.
All right.
And this belief helps me understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What else would you like to discuss?
I'm very interested in, and I would like you to tell us about the Vimana that are written about in the Vedic scriptures.
Yes. Well, there were ancient civilizations on your planet that understood the idea of how to create levitating craft.
Were the Vimanas piloted by extraterrestrials or human beings?
Both.
What was the conflict about?
One moment. We will see if we can translate this into your cultural understanding. You've heard the phrase, stealing thunder from the gods?
Yes.
The conflict that was created in that time was the idea of who deserved to have the technology.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Thus, some of the technology was stolen and utilized, and there were repercussions.
Which races, extraterrestrial and human, were involved in this conflict?
Those in what you would call the early Indus Valley, in terms of the human side, in Asia. In terms of the extraterrestrial side, we are not allowed to tell you that.
Okay. And how long did this conflict last?
In your terms of time, there were different phases, but overall, approximately 72 of your years.
And approximately how long ago was this?
You will find this to be more than 3,000 of your years ago.
And are the Sumerian legends speaking of these events also, or was that a different set of events in the ancient Sumerian?
It is a mixture of things, some of which is touching on these, some of which touches on other things.
And then what are the consequences on human beings? Was this part of starting civilization for human beings, or?
It wasn't that far back. Some of the consequences were the destruction and interruption of certain cultures.
So are there repercussions now in the way we deal with conflicts and wars because of this, or have we resolved all the issues?
Again, there is no such thing as the idea of the past affecting the present unless you believe that there is, but certainly it is in the overall mixture of what you are exploring as the concept of how you wish to relate to the concept of technology with regard to power, with regard to space, with regard to your culture, with regard to your responsibilities to the cosmos, so on and so forth, with regard to your relationship to creation. All these same, shall we say, issues are at hand as they were then, and you seem to be going in a similar but then slightly different direction this time, I'll say.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes. And are these people in the Indus Valley, are they related in any way to the Lemurians?
Not as directly as you might think, but there are some ancient offshoots that are intermixed genetically in with that culture. But not as much as you necessarily would think directly.
Okay.
Does that help you?
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day. And your vote?
For 5.
Why?
Clarity.
Clarity. All right.
I was up a mountain in Sonoma 3 nights ago, and I saw what I believed was a spacecraft, and I wondered whether you might be able to shed some light on who I was looking at or who was looking at me.
Define
the
spacecraft.
I saw a point of light that then expanded to become a big glowing white light, which then started moving across the sky, and then the light turned off, and it was a sort of grey sphere that disappeared?
These are called observers. They are a neutral, binding force between a variety of cultures. They check in and see what certain cultures, spacefaring cultures, are doing and how they are interacting with planetary-bound cultures. Assessing, observing, recommending, and suggesting courses of action in future interactions and contact and observations. Does that make sense to you in your language?
Yes. I had a second question, which is, I've been experimenting with a South American brew called ayahuasca.
Yes.
And whenever I've taken ayahuasca, it seems to me that it's sort of gateway.
It can be. There are many natural substances produced by the earth that will allow for the opening of doors and windows into other dimensional realms and perceptions of such. The idea, of course, to remember is that these are teachers, and that once they have truly taught you the idea of the vibrational state that is necessary to peer into those other dimensions and bring information back to apply to your reality, then you can create those states yourself without necessarily needing the physical teacher from that point forward.
I see. So when people talk about ayahuasca as having a spirit, they treat it as if it's got an intelligence of its own.
Of course it does. Everything has an intelligence of its own because everything is made from consciousness.
Because I've noticed that people tend to, practitioners who work with ayahuasca have sort of almost like turned it into a kind of deity. And
well, in the sense that it is an archetypal form, an archetypal representation of consciousness that exists in its own realm. I suppose you could use that term, but it is not the teacher's intention to be deified.
okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Does this help you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.